This is part 3 or 4. I don't remember. I lost count of my book collection. And I think I think we might be able to pull this off in one video, depending on how quickly I get through these books. Now, I did forget about one book, one very important book that I probably should have started off with first, because this book was sitting on my nightstand, so it wasn't with my other books. So I almost completely forgot about it, which wasn't intentional. I'm sorry, but yeah, this is my Bible. It's really dusty, as you can tell. I'm so sorry about that. I got this a few years ago at a church. I'm still frustrated that I lost my other Bible. I don't think I'll ever get over that. Yeah, I don't know what happened to it, but I had a Bible. I took so many notes in it, like way more notes than in this Bible. And then, I don't know, I left, and then it was just gone. And I don't know where I left it. I checked all over for it. I asked all around. Nobody saw it. I never saw it again. And just like after these all these years later, I was just still frustrated because that was my favorite Bible. But at least I replaced it with this one. I just have to wipe all the dust off. But yeah, that's its place on my nightstand. But I think I'm gonna put it with my other books because I'm trying to keep it in good condition. All this dust on it, it's just it's just not good for the book. So after I wipe it off, of course, I'm gonna put it with my other books. But yeah, the Holy Bible, because when the whole world goes to crap, that is the only book that will be useful to me. So actually, I changed my mind. It wasn't the presidency book, it's the Bible. When all's said and done, I mean, all my other books, they're not as important as that one book, the Bible. That's the only book that I'll need at the end of the day, more than all these books. I like all my books are important, but that's the most important book is the Holy Bible. So yeah, that's definitely a part of my book collection. Okay, what's the next one? An Introduction to Political Philosophy by Jonathan Wolfe. It was another one of my favorites. Yeah, as you can see, I've got just a few sticky notes in there. Yeah, all of my this I know this one was definitely um I got this one in my political theory class. Political theory class was a really really good class. So was the professor. Again, like it's really deep. It's a really deep political theory is really deep, but it's not as deep as international relations. I'm gonna keep comparing everything to international relations because it's just like I mean there is no comparison. That's like the hardest in my opinion, the hardest subject. But yeah, this is where I learned about all of the political philosophers that played a part in our constitute everything from our constitution to um to our political party's democracy, uh, and the theories I was talking about earlier. Excuse me, they had a major part in creating those theories too. Yeah, and that was the people who I mentioned earlier. What Plato? Wait, was it? Well, it was Thomas Hobbes. I know for sure it's Thomas Hobbes. John Stuart Mill, I believe he was mentioned in this book. Let's see if I can remember. offhand who else was mentioned in this book. Oh, maybe I should go back to school, or at the very least, start reading these books. I just feel like I have to refresh. It's not good to not retain this stuff, like to forget this stuff, because this is really important. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that I took this class. It's not like it's been years and years. I always get like I always get irritated with myself when I start forgetting this stuff. I mean, it is a lot to take in, but who are the other philosophers? There's a lot of good material in this book too. This is another book that I recommend. If you want to learn more about political theory, it's good to start with the people who are influential in um, developing our how we think uh, about not just politics. Okay, Mill on Liberty. Yeah, talked about anarchy. That was another. Let's see, it was anarchy. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Not it's not aristocracy. Who were the other philosophers? Utilitarianism. Let's see if I can define that. Okay, so utilitarianism, that is when what is that? I think it's when I know it has to do with like oh my gosh. Okay, I need to look at the definition. No, wait. Like utility. Like you find a purpose for something. Okay, hold on. I can't do. Okay, Mill explains and defends the utilitarian system in his work Utilitarianism, 1861. As he defines it, utilitarianism is a theory which holds that actions are right in proportion as they tend to promote happiness, wrong as they tend to produce the reverse of happiness. The happiness by happiness is intended pleasure and the absence of pain. By unhappiness, pain and the privation privation of pleasure. Okay, broadly, we might summarize the view as saying that utilitarianism requires us to maximize the sum total of happiness or pleasure in the world. Yeah, yeah, what that said. I think I was close. I knew it had, yeah, it had to do with happiness. Okay, who are the other philosophers? So yeah, John Stuart Mill was a proponent of utilitarianism. I think. Oh, I was mentioning the theories earlier. Liberalism. I think John Stuart Mill was liberal. I don't know why it's so hard for me to find. I might have to go to the table of contents. The distribution of property. Who was that? Rawls. We didn't get into Rawls that much. It would be good if they just like mention the philosopher's name in each chapter. Justice. Well, if I had my notes, I'd be able to. Um, okay, I'm sorry. It's really irritating me that I don't know the names of all. Oh, Rousseau. Rousseau. That was another one that we learned about. That was another main figure. Uh, what was his name though? What was his full name? And what did he believe in? I think he was another liberal. I think he was liberalism. Arts and sciences. Yeah, he was in the arts and science. Rousseau. What was his first name? Oh my gosh. Okay. I still have a lot more books to get to. But yeah, this is a really, 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 really good book. Political philosophy. Really, really good. Okay. Educational Foundations, an anthology of critical readings. This is another book for my education class, and this was like one of the better books. Yeah, I remember I read some of this book. I actually used some of the stuff they were talking about in this book to like make some arguments against my professor. Uh, I think there was like one specific argument, one specific sentence in the book that I used. Okay, I don't want to. Okay, well, this is another good one. So yeah, if I want to see what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to like gain some insight into our education system through the perspective of the teachers, because they're the ones that teach these students, and so they know more about like the ins and outs of the education system. Like they know more about like the budgets, about the curriculum, because they're assigned this curriculum, and uh, about what's how we're failing in terms of like grades and test scores. If anybody has more insight into the failures of our education system, it'd definitely be the teachers. Um, so yeah, I'm trying to. Uh, I think this book, because it's an anthology, so it's like it's from different teachers' perspectives. So yeah. Okay. Oh, I'm seeing a lot of my favorite books. Insane: America's Criminal Treatment of Mental Illness by Alyssa Roth. This is another one of my favorites. Because I took a class, I think it was a criminal justice class. I think it was called Criminal Justice and Mental Illness. And yeah, it was talking about like how our criminal justice system tries to like accommodate the mentally ill, because from what I learned, a lot of inmates, a majority of our prison population are mentally ill and are receiving treatment for that inside our prison system. Um, So yeah, they're suffering from things like schizophrenia, depression, and yeah. But there's issues like they um, there's not a lot of like prison doctors, if that's what they call them. Like this probably has to do with funding too. Just like not a lot of funding for these things that there should be funding for. There's not a lot of funding for mental illness and mental institutions. Period. In this country, especially in Illinois. I won't say in this country. I mean, maybe it is in this country, but I know for sure in Illinois and in Chicago, a lot of mental institutions have closed. And so now, like, they actually said in this book that the prisons have become the next mental institution in this country. Because if they're not in a hospital, then they're out on the streets and getting themselves like into trouble, like endangering themselves or endangering others, and they're not getting treatments that they should be receiving. And so the only other place to put the mentally ill, unfortunately, is in prison. And that's not the environment that they need to be in. That is exacerbating their condition, uh, if anything. So yeah, this is a really good book. That's another area that I want to specialize in is mental illness, and um, that also has some politics in it too. So yeah, that's another thing I want to be influential in is helping the mentally ill population, creating policy uh, directed at like opening more mental institutions. Also, policy around the kind of treatment, because not all of it is treatments. It's like the pills, but I'll get into that another time. But there needs to be some changes definitely in that area, because this country has like we have like um we have the most mentally ill population in this country than anywhere else in the world. Like we have the highest rate of depression. I think depression is the number one mental illness in America, and then we have anxiety and other serious illnesses. But yeah, that's a good book. So yeah, mental illness, education, public housing, poverty. These are all issues that most of them, um, like most of them, I have not like experience, but like I have a personal like I can relate to them. So and then so yeah, I'm able to like talk about it more. What's the next book? Let me move some over to this pile. Actually, let me just finish this pile. This is an old one. Well, not that old. I still had it in college. State and local government. This is another good one. This is another book, and um, in addition to the presidency book, this is another essential book. Uh, like if you want to get into the basics of government, then this is a good book to read to start with. And yeah, like I would read this as a refresher, because I already know a lot about the government in this country. I know about like the executive, legislative, judicial branches, how they operate and everything. Um, but you know what? This could be like local government. I don't think I know too much about how that works. I know about how the federal government works, but I think I would need to. I mean, I should know about how all of this works. I mean, I do like to some extent, to some level, but um, this will be a good book to read to like refresh on that, or to just learn more about how our local government works and and the state government, because those are the offices I'm running for. I mean, the mayor's office, that's um, that's a local government, I think. It's local government. But yeah, so that's a good book also. Okay, this is the book. Remember, like I was sharing that story about the book, the criminal justice book that I sold, and then before I sold it, I like kissed it, and then I had weird story. But this is it: Criminal Justice in Action, the core. This is one of my favorite books. I know I have a lot of favorite books in my collection, but this is definitely one of them. And my professor who taught this class, he was actually an attorney. He was an attorney, and he was just really good at like he knew his stuff definitely. And it's funny because like we got into like a lot of not arguments, like debates, and I didn't really like him at the beginning of the semester because like he was just really, I mean, he was strict and uptight, but he kind of came off rude to me. So I kind of took it the wrong. We kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but I mean, he was still respectful to me, and I was respectful to him. And we had our debates inside in class. But he obviously knew more than me about this subject. uh, and I learned a lot. Actually, learned a lot from this class, and I got an A in that class. And I like that he incorporated a lot of legal stuff into this criminal justice class, because like there is a lot of like legality in criminal justice. Like you have to learn about the courts and the Constitution, and he had placed a lot of emphasis on the Constitution. We had to memorize like some case studies, and yeah, his finals, not just the finals, like just the midterm exam, like all of his tests were just like really extensive. I mean, we were allowed to use like little cheat sheets and everything, but they were just like really, they weren't really hard, but they were really tough. They were tough. We had to do like essays. I mean, that's not the first time I did an essay exam, but like they were. It was pretty. It was pretty deep. I remember this one girl. This one girl. She was my classmate in this class, and she was like, "Why are we like learning so much? We're not going to become lawyers. Like, why are we learning so much about the law in this class?" I was like, it was pretty obvious. There's a lot of law in criminal justice, like I said. But yeah, this book is really good. I was so sad when I had to give away that book, and because I took so much notes, but luckily I think I kept the notebook for that class. Yeah, I think I definitely did, but not the book. And all my notes, I guess I'll have to start again in this new book. But yeah, um, let me flip through it for a few minutes. Yeah, he made this book a lot more. I mean, he just made the class. He wasn't boring either. He just made the class like um I mean, some people, I thought it was fun, like, but some people probably thought it was boring. Uh, I'm trying to find this. Trying to find the chapter talked about the Constitution. Now, this book I didn't read it like cover to cover, but I did go through. I think I did go through the whole book. Like just like skimming through it. Okay, I'll get back to this because I don't want to take up too much time. Um, but yeah, criminal justice. I think that's no, I think that's the second criminal justice book that I've covered. I've already went through a lot of books, so I don't know. It might be the. Oh, here's another criminal justice book. I'm gonna save this one for last. Okay, almost 30 minutes. Oh, I'm not doing good so far. We still have a lot of books to cover. I keep stopping because, well, I have a lot more than I thought I would have to say about these books, considering that I haven't read all of them. But because like the classes that kind of helped and whatever I wasn't able to cover in the book, I was the class. It kind of like filled in those gaps, like filled in those missing parts that I didn't get in the book. So that's probably also why I have a lot to say about uh, about the books and the topics. Okay, what is this book? American Revolutions. Well, this is the cover. It doesn't say anything, but it's got the title on the binder, on the spine. Sorry. I went through this in some detail. You know what? I have something to say about this class too. This was another good class. I have so many good classes that I took. This is like getting me thinking about going back to school. I know I have so much more to learn about in my major, and I'm excited about that. Or maybe I covered most of everything. I don't know. Like I probably didn't. There's some areas in political science that I never even knew about that I'm discovering. Like I'm always learning something new in my field, which is good. But American Revolution, this is I got a few books from this class that was talking about. Um, it was the class. The class was focused on the Revolutionary War. Um, and yeah, uh, so yeah, I knew about war. I learned about in school. I learned about World War I, World War II. That's pretty much the only wars that got a lot of attention when I was in elementary through high school. And yeah, as far as history is concerned, like we really didn't get into the Revolutionary War like we should have. I mean, that's I mean, that's probably the most important war because that's how we got our independence in the first place. So I mean, it should be talked about just as much as the other war wars that this country has gone through. I mean, it's not a war, but yeah. I mean, well, there was more than one country, but anyways, um, I learned more about the Revolutionary War in this class, and yeah, I learned about like it was between America. Well, it wasn't America at that time. There was just like it was the 13 colonies and Great Britain, and I think Great Britain they got the Native Americans on their side to help them fight us. In the United States wasn't I think France was on our side. I think France also fight the Revolutionary War. think there was a few other countries. So maybe that was it. Um, but yeah, and I did like some presentations on this one individual throughout the class. That was Alexander Hamilton. I was like, oh, I think I've heard of this historical figure before, but I don't really know anything about him. I definitely learned a lot about him in this class, and his story was just like super interesting. His background, it was like so interesting to research about. And I was watching this one documentary on him where I based my presentation on. I think that's actually a video that I made a while back about Alexander Hamilton. If you wanted to go back and watch my presentation on him, it was just really fascinating. Um, yeah, like I mean, he started off like, and he was like really smart too. Even like as a child, he those well from what I can remember, he learned like about like in his hometown, he learned to like about these different currencies, and um he got like a good education, and like he was just a smart guy. And then like he got into politics eventually, but before that, like he actually fought. He's considered like a founding father, um, but he wasn't like a president or anything. He was just like he was more influential, I think, um, and not drafting the Constitution, but like had an influence in the Constitution, I think. And he fought in the Revolutionary War, and he was like really young when he fought too. Like, and they made him like I think a general or something. Like he grew in the ranks pretty well, and I think he was a teenager. And yeah, he helped us win the Revolutionary War. And um yeah, but his story was like really tragic though because well, I'll get into that. But yeah, George Washington, our first president, he was good. He was like he fought in the Revolutionary War too. He was a general before he became president, and he fought alongside Hamilton. And of course, like he was um, he was higher than Hamilton. Like Hamilton, like followed. He was under he was under like George Washington's wing. Um, and so yeah, he became like a father figure, and like Hamilton was like a son to George Washington. So they're pretty close throughout the years. And yeah, so when George Washington became president, he made Hamilton, what was it, Treasury of the wait, Secretary of the Treasury, I think. He worked under Washington appointed him as something. I think it was Treasury, Secretary of the Treasury. I think he had some other like jobs too, and he gained some enemies along the line. I can't remember his what was his name. He became president too after Washington. What was Thomas Jefferson. He was one of Hamilton's main enemies. Uh, anyway, I made a whole video about that, so I won't. I'm trying to get into these books, but yeah, uh, I learned a lot more about Alexander Hamilton in this book and in my in my class that I took about the Revolutionary War. And I learned more about the Revolutionary War too, a lot more than I have in my life. But that particular historical figure, it was just I really liked learning about his story, and so yeah. Um, oh, guys, this is a really I talked about international relations. This I keep like finding like these books that are like really hard. Logic. If anybody's ever taken logic, it's not for the faint of heart. if you've never taken, if you have taken it and you understand it, that's awesome. I tried so hard to understand it. It went well at first. This is another like class that I had like a horrible professor. Like if I wanted to learn anything about this, he's not the professor for it. But um yeah, logic. A concise introduction. How many pages is this? It's almost 700 pages. Yeah, it started off. I dropped this class actually. I think I was halfway into the semester. So, I mean, I was almost done. But yeah, I was starting off good. I was like doing well in the tests and the quizzes. And I was, kind of following along. And then like it just all went downhill as the semester progressed because this is just a really hard subject. I'd say this is harder than international relations, but this is philosophy, by the way. This is not political science. Um but the reason why I took this, it taught about like it was good in like if you're in debates, um some of these skills, some of these like what's it called, debating like skills uh are taught in logic. Like what was it? I'm not even gonna attempt to remember this, but no, what was? See, I can't even remember like what because there was different types of logic that they were talking about. Let's see the basic concepts. No, hold on. Yeah, this was definitely. I think there's some math in here too. So yeah, there's some. I see the symbols. Truth tables for the propositional operators. Rules for the probability calculus. This is definitely intimidating. And I mean, I don't mind it. It's just that it's really hard to understand. Maybe one day I'll understand. Maybe I'll take it in the future. I'll take the class again, hopefully with a better professor that'll help me understand this stuff. Because I definitely want to I want to improve my debating, like my argumentation skills. Um, and I was told that this is the class to take to do that. Okay, deduction and induction. I remember that. Yeah, deductive reasoning and inductive reasoning. Um, that's what you use in debating. Yeah, I start getting it. I'm looking at the table of contents. Um, so yeah, I got through part one, the basic concepts, the language, meaning, definition, informal fallacies. Uh, Part two, formal logic, categorical propositions, categorical syllogisms. I don't even know how to pronounce some of this. Propositional logic, natural deduction, impropositional logic, predicate logic. Um, Part three, inductive logic. Yeah, as it kept going on and on, like I just got lost and just got. And even if I had a good professor, I mean, if I don't understand what the heck it's talking about, like then I'm not going to understand. So I think it's a combination of having a good professor to help like guide you through this, and even going to tutoring. I can't believe I mean I can't remember if I went to tutoring for this class. I don't think so because this was during the pandemic. I took this class during the pandemic. The schools were like closed. I took this class online, so I don't think I went to tutoring. I don't think I went to online tutoring either. I was just pretty much like trying to like figure this out by myself, and I couldn't do it. I dropped the class, um, and that's okay because at the end of the day, my main concern was preserving my GPA, and if I felt like that was in jeopardy or like at risk, then I would drop the class and worry about uh, shouldering the cost at a later date. But that's why you have to be really careful about, uh, really careful about researching these classes before you take them. Make sure that they're right for you. Because if not, then you're just wasting your time and more importantly, wasting your money. And thankfully, I've only had a few experiences. That's not like most of my experience. I make sure like to go over these classes with my advisor if I'm not sure. And yeah, most of the classes I've taken were in my field. Okay, this is another criminal justice textbook. It's called American Corrections Concepts and Controversies. Um, Here it is. I think this was another good one. I liked all of my criminal justice classes. Criminal justice uh, is a good field to study and to work into. Um, and the reason why, see, I have reasons with all of these classes that I take, all of these fields that I'm interested in. I have reasons for like being interested in them in the first place. And criminal justice, the background for me being interested in criminal justice is because like I'm really pro law enforcement, and at the time and like still now, um, I've been trying to like when I was saying like with the Mueller report book, I was trying to come up with arguments like to support President Trump. It was kind of similar to the criminal justice. I'm trying to like learn more about law enforcement and more specifically more about like what they have to go through, what the police has to go through, and like just learn more about it so I can gain more insight. Um, So, like, if I'm creating arguments in support of police, in support of law enforcement, in support of like, I I know what I'm talking about. So that's my reasoning um, of taking these criminal justice classes. And I did. There was like one class that specifically talked about police. I don't know why I didn't take it. I think it was the professor. Um, but yeah. I was like, oh, this is like the one class that I want to take, and now I don't really want to take it after I looked at who was teaching the class. But yeah, I realized most of the criminal justice classes that I was taking like focus more on corrections, and I don't know, like that's I wanted to know more about the police, but I mean that is the police. The police like they work in different areas in the criminal justice system. They work in the prisons and jails, and then they work on the streets, and they work in different areas. They work in the office. Um, so yeah, but I wasn't trying to get into corrections. I was just trying to get into like um, I don't even know what to call it, but yeah, I still learned some pretty good stuff with these classes. Yeah, I took some notes on this one too. Oh yeah. Oh, this is when I learned more about that word I was talking about in one of my videos when I was talking about what was I talking about? Oh, the Illinois Purge Law or the Safety Act, and I was talking about recidivism. I learned that word from this class in this book, and it wasn't just recidivism. It was some other main. What was it? Oh goodness, I hate when I can't remember this stuff. I think there was three. And see, I try to take note of when something is like emphasized over and over and over again, like if it's a reoccurring theme in my classes and in my textbooks, I make sure to make a note of that because then I know like that's what the material is centered around. Recidivism. I know I like wrote it down. I'm getting crowded by all these books over here. This is so frustrating. I mean, it's not a big. Oh, retribution. Retribution, recidivism. What was the other one? Goodness. So I know recidivism, I was talking about the other day, is when you leave prison and then you reoffend and then you go back into prison, go back to the system, and then you keep doing it over and over again. And that's what they're trying to reduce is recidivism. I think they have some strategies. And then oh, I think rehabilitation is the third one. I think there was a fourth one. There was rehabilitation, recidivism, and retribution. So retribution is when, um, well, I learned like in this book, it was like giving an example of like, I think it was the Native Americans. They had like this system where like the offender and the victim would come together and they would talk things out and then like the community would come to excuse me and then they would come to like some sort of what's it called, like reconciliation, like closure for the victim. um and I don't remember if the offender had to pay the victim. I mean they did if that was the agreement they were came to, but pretty much like they would resolve everything, like talk it out. um and yeah, that's what happened with. I'm reading right here, retributive. No, I don't think that's retributive justice. Is that even what retribution? Let me. I'm sorry. I think I'm getting. Let me see the definition. Okay, I'm looking for retribution, not retributive justice. Okay. Well, let me go on. I'm sorry, I'm jumping back and forth. Let me go into the other ones, and then I'll move on to the next book because this is bothering me that I don't know the other. So it's retribution, recidivism, I think rehabilitation. And rehabilitation, that's like, I already know I'm familiar with that term. Um, that's when you like, when you get treatment, when you try to get better treatment for your behavior, whether that be for drugs or in this case, like um, for your like criminal behavior. Um, you go to rehab for that. And the purpose of rehab, it's like, I think they were saying like it's different from prison because prison doesn't really like reform an individual. I mean, it can, but because of the environment, it doesn't really serve. It's not really conducive for rehabilitation. It's yeah. Oh my gosh. Maybe I think I wrote it on the cover. Not the cover, but uh, I'm gonna move on. I promise. I'm just trying to find it. Or maybe it was 3, but I thought it was 4. And I call these themes, these these words, the rehabilitation, recidivism, and retribution. I call them the themes of corrections or criminal justice. Uh, because even in other criminal justice classes I've taken, I've heard these buzzwords before. Oh, I think deterrence, incapacitation. I think this is it. Okay, retribution or punishment means exacting a sacrifice on the part of the offender in payment for the wrong done to victims and to society. Okay, so I think I was right about that. That's why I was saying the victim and the offender come together, come to some sort of like reconciliation. And it's like a different system of justice where like the offender isn't imprisoned, they don't go to court or anything. Uh, I forgot which group of people did this. I think it was the Native Americans. Society achieves retribution by demanding that the convicted person give back in the form of jail or prison time. Oh, maybe I was wrong. Maybe it does involve uh, incarceration. Fines, community service, or compensation to those harmed by the criminal behavior. Practically speaking, when people speak of accountability, they most often mean retribution. Okay, so I mean, I was partially right. It doesn't have to strictly mean incarceration. There could be other ways of like other ways of justice, like the fines and stuff like that. Okay, deterrence. Okay, I think this was it. It was incapacitation, deterrence, and retribution. But no, it was rehabilitation. Recidivism, I don't think was part of it. I think that's just another vocabulary word that I use, but it wasn't a part of these themes that I was talking about. I have this earmarked. Okay, rehabilitation, we went over that. Deterrence, that's an easy one. That's when the police they try to, like for example, like having squad cars, like during the riots we had in 2020 and during like the smash and grabs and everything. They were saying it was a deterrence to have like the police stationed on the streets and their squad cars around like these around the areas like the Magnificent Mile, and other areas downtown that were experiencing a lot of crime. Um, a heavy police presence served as a deterrence to for the criminals, like to not engage in these crimes because they know if they do, the police is right there. They're just going to arrest you. So that served as a strong deterrence. It doesn't always do that. Like sometimes a criminal, they'll just go ahead with their plans, but most of the time it does. Police presence serves as a deterrence to stop crime. That's what deterrence means. And of course, incapacitation. Like, I mean, it's the same thing as it's similar to incarceration. So you incapacitate the offender, then you put them behind bars. Like you restrict their freedom, um, to prevent them from reoffending, and that's usually through prison and jail as incapacitation. And okay, so yeah, good book. But I'm gonna move on now. Oh, this is almost going on an hour. Okay, I think I'm on part 3 or 4. I'm gonna stop it here because I don't know if YouTube will let me upload. I don't even know if YouTube will let me upload this video because it's almost an hour. I hope it does because I'd hate to do all of this all over again. But I'm gonna make a part 4, part 5, whatever. I'm gonna make a next part, and that I promise will be the final part. But I'm having a lot of fun with this, and I'll try to make the next part a little bit quicker. I know it's not going to be an hour. It's going to be a little shorter. But like I said, I'm enjoying this. I'm not, rushing or anything. At least I'm getting more videos up. Um, but I really like this. I think this is really interesting going over all my books again, from college and high school. So yeah, I'm gonna make the next part and I'm gonna end this one here.